What is up, friends, and welcome back to the Nurse Nook. It has been quite a little while since I did a sit-down video for you guys, and so here we are. I wanted to start back up my sit-down videos with a NICU update for you guys. So if you guys are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Alexis Nicole, and I am currently a level 4 NICU registered nurse. I've been a nurse for over 4 years now. Oh my God. Every time I say that, I'm like, because it does not feel like that. And I still feel like, sometimes I don't know what I'm doing, especially in the NICU, but here we are. Let's get cozy. I have experience in adult ER, pediatric ER trauma, mother baby, and now NICU. And this is most likely my forever home and probably the last, at least acute specialty I will do because I love NICU. So I have my tea here. It is piping hot, literally. You guys can still see the steam coming out. Also, I have been drinking absolutely everything with a straw these days. It is just like an elevated style of living. I cannot bear to sip from a cup anymore. I feel so bougie saying that, but I started using straws because I heard that it helps with preventing staining your teeth, especially if you drink red wine or dark teas like I do. Today we have green tea. And so I just started using a straw and I just cannot go back. I drink a straw, or I use a straw to drink absolutely everything, even my water. So we have our tea, and let's get into the update video. So I have a few videos on the NICU. I will leave a playlist somewhere around below. I figured it's a perfect time to do an update because I have been in the NICU now for a little over a year, an entire year, which is crazy to say because I feel like that flew by. But yes, y'all, a year as a NICU nurse, and my opinion on it, to say the least, I love it. I do have really hard days and I also have really good days, but in all, I love the NICU. It is my bread and butter, and I used to say this all the time. The only reason I went to nursing school was to work in the NICU. And that's just something that I want to bring up because obviously based on my history, I have done NICU for 1/4 of my career, but I went into nursing school just to do NICU, so it doesn't kind of make sense. It doesn't add up. And here's my reasoning for that. I knew that I always wanted to do NICU. However, when I was in nursing school, I started getting introduced to so many different specialties and so many different clinical settings. And I was like, oh my gosh, these things are kind of cool. I kind of want to check it out. But I knew my heart was in NICU. And so my plan was to start in a high stress, totally opposite environment such as the ER, and then I would eventually make my way to NICU, and that is exactly what I did. I started in the adult ER. It was very interesting. I really am grateful for my time in those settings. Now that I'm in NICU, I cannot see myself doing any other type of nursing. For me, this is the sweet spot of nursing and my favorite specialty. So in short, I love the NICU. Now, since I've been here for about a year, I kind of have my feet down. I know what I'm doing a little bit more. I can talk a little bit more about how my transition has been. My transition was a little bit rocky at first because I was coming from mother baby, which was my first experience as an inpatient nurse, and I wasn't there for very long. And so this is my first experience inpatient in ICU. And if you guys are not familiar with NICU, NICU is extremely detailed, very specific. I mean, down to the medications. We give medications that are less than 0.1 ml. So you can imagine how meticulous and how detailed everything has to be, and that's just the nature of the NICU. And so for me, I'm used to working in a fast-paced ER setting where a lot of times you don't have orders to give things, doctors are shouting things out, you're running a code, you're pushing meds. And so to transition to a world like the NICU where everything is you don't do anything without an order, everything has to be double checked. I mean, things that I would never think twice about doing in the ER, it's you need multiple people to check you in the NICU setting because babies are so fragile and your doses and everything is there's such a small amount, and these babies are in critical condition. And so you have to be very careful with everything that you do and give. So with that being said, there were some other things that were a little bit different for me to transition into. Certain things like linens. If you guys in the NICU know exactly what I'm talking about, but NICU nurses are so specific about their linens. Like they have, NICU personalities are very like type A, and that's another thing that I will get into a little bit later. But everyone is very like meticulous about like the way their linens are and like the way their bedside carts are and like their isolate drawers are. Things are a lot more organized than what I'm used to. Now I kind of like it. I really love the organization. I love the like, there's a place for everything. I kind of love that thought process, but it was different initially because I'm used to working in such like a messy, disorganized, all over the place environment like the ER. If you guys have been in the ER, you know what I'm talking about. So it was different. I'm not gonna say I like didn't like it. I get it. I understand the personalities. I get why some personalities thrive in the NICU, but it was a transition for me. And I will say there was like a short amount of time that I was like, I don't know if like my personality really fits NICU because I'm not really type A. I'm more so like a just vibe and like, let's go with the flow. Like that is my personality. And so it was very different to come to a setting where everyone is like, boom, boom, boom. Like everything is organized and, you know, but I have really come to appreciate that fact. I'm becoming type A, y'all. Like if something is out of order, if like someone goes to my bed space, I'm like, excuse you. They used to make fun of like NICU nurses for that and I used to laugh, but now I'm like, that's me. But anyways, yes, there definitely is a certain type of personality that thrives, but I will say you will learn how to survive there. I did. I don't feel like I have a traditional NICU personality, but I'm there and I freaking love it. And can I say the thing that I probably love the most about it is the structure. Ooh, I love me some freaking structure, y'all. When I get there at the beginning of the shift, I literally number out every single hour of the shift and I know what I'm doing every single hour of that shift. Mind you, I can get an admission. It can throw me off a little bit, but even with the admission, like there's steps that you do, you know exactly what you have to get done. And I just really love the organization of it. That is my favorite part because I love crossing things off my list. I love knowing when I'm gonna have time to take a break. A lot of times I try to plan my lunch at the beginning of the shift and when I'm gonna have time to go. Oh my God, I love it. But don't get me wrong, it is an ICU setting, it is a hospital, and so a lot of times things don't go to plan and that is normal. But for the most part, I am able to stick to a schedule and I love that. I love me a checklist. Another update I have for you guys, since I am now an inpatient nurse, I am up for floating. So I floated for the first time the other day. And one soapbox that I will never get down from is the fact that I feel that floating to different units is such an unsafe practice, and you can never argue me out of that. I floated to the CVICU, which is totally different from the NICU. Mind you, I had babies. They normally only give you what is in your scope of practice, which babies are in our scope of practice. Technically, like neonatologists, NNPs, which are neonatal nurse practitioners, their scope of practice is up to 2 years old. So it's basically the same thing for a NICU nurse. And so they will give you patients that are in your scope of practice, but it's the fact that everything is run so differently than your unit. And like I said earlier, NICU is very specific. There is a lot of order, very structured. And that is way different than every other unit on the hospital. I have worked in many different units and nothing is like NICU. And so to be thrown into a new environment, you don't know the coworkers, you don't even know where the heck the supply room is. You don't really know the codes to everything. You don't even have access to the Pyxis sometimes. There's just so many things that it's like it literally feels like you're being thrown to the wolves to float. And I just feel like that is just not a safe environment for patients and the nurse. Don't get me started on floating. I can make a whole nother video on why I think it's inappropriate for nurses to float. Mind you, if you're floating from like one med surge to another med surge, things like that, yeah, I get that. But still, because you wouldn't start a new job and immediately start on the floor the same day as soon as you walk in. So why can I float to a different unit with no prior orientation and be expected to work? I just think that's crazy, and I just don't agree with it. You guys can fight me in the comments below. But yes, so I had my first experience. Mind you, I will say the nurses on that unit were absolutely phenomenal. They helped me so much. I probably would have cried in the bathroom if it wasn't for them, because I had to do some stuff that I've never done before in my life. But they were so helpful, and oh my God, thank God. God really blessed me with the staff there that night, because it could have gone really bad. But yes, that is also a NICU update, because as an ER nurse, I never had to float before. So this was, I am 4.5 years into nursing, and this was my first time floating. So that was a wake-up call. But in all, I really do love the NICU. I am learning exponentially every day. And I will be very honest, like I said at the beginning of this video, just because I really love it and I'm enjoying what I'm doing, I don't want to give the perception that it is so easy, so seamless. It's not sad, I'm just having the time of my life. I really love working in the NICU as a nurse. I love taking care of that patient population. But if you guys are interested in going into NICU, just be aware that, especially in a setting such as a level 4 NICU, which is what I work in, babies are critical. Babies are very sick. Babies do die, unfortunately, and a lot of that is very hard to deal with, and that's probably the hardest part of my job. And it is very hard, but I still find it so rewarding. So I don't ever want to give the perception that just because I love it and, you know, this is my dream job, that it's easy, because it is not always easy. In fact, it can be very, very emotionally draining, but I still love what I do, and I would not want to be in any other specialty. Like, this is my place. I love it. And I can't wait to grow more in the NICU. If you guys have any specific questions on what it's like to work in the NICU, my experience in the NICU, leave them down below. I will either answer them or try to include them in another video. I do have a video coming up for you guys. If you guys don't already follow me on Instagram, I talked about me going part-time recently, and so I will talk about my experience with that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.